Hey everyone! In today's video, we're talking about one of the most fascinating shifts happening in the global automotive landscape, why China doesn't need global car companies anymore. We're going to explore how China went from assembling cars for foreign manufacturers to developing its own powerhouse brands that are now starting to challenge, and, in some cases, outpace, well-known Western and Japanese automakers. We'll also take a closer look at the major innovations in electric vehicles, exports to new markets, and the wide-reaching implications for car buyers everywhere. As always, all the sources we use to build this story are linked in the description below, so be sure to check them out if you want to dig deeper. Now, before we jump in, do me a quick favor. If you find this video helpful or intriguing, please give it a like. That small gesture helps keep this channel going and ensures more people discover these stories. All right, let's get started. To understand where China's automotive might is coming from, we need to take a quick look back at how things started. For a long time, China was primarily known for making cars in joint ventures with well-established foreign manufacturers. Global companies like Volkswagen, General Motors, Toyota, and others saw enormous potential in the Chinese market. After all, with a population of over 1.4 billion, there's no shortage of potential customers. For these foreign automakers, teaming up with a local Chinese partner was essential because of national regulations that required them to form joint ventures if they wanted to produce and sell vehicles in the country. But over the years, something remarkable happened. Those local partners, companies like SAC, FAW, Chang'an, and Geely, used their joint venture experience to learn the ropes of building cars. They gained expertise in everything from design and engineering to marketing and distribution. As sales soared, domestic Chinese brands started leveraging their newfound know-how to create vehicles under their own names. The Chinese government also made sure to prioritize the local industry, offering subsidies, incentives, and a strategic policy push, especially for electric and hybrid vehicles. This environment created a breeding ground for innovation and rapid growth. Before we dive deeper, here's a gentle reminder to like this video if you're enjoying it so far. All right, let's keep going. China is currently the world's largest car market. It's held that title since 2009, according to a variety of sources, including Wikipedia's page on the automotive industry in China. In fact, many Western companies rely heavily on their Chinese sales to keep profits healthy. For instance, some luxury automakers sell more cars in China than in any other single market. But as domestic Chinese brands have matured, the market's appetite for these foreign nameplates has begun to cool. Recent articles note that global automakers in China are seeing their market share slip, largely because local players are producing vehicles that are competitive in price, quality, and technology. If we look at recent surveys and sales data, Chinese car manufacturers, some of whom you might not have heard of just a few years ago, are now hitting record sales. Brands like BYD, Geely, Chery, and GAC have carved out significant portions of the market, fueled by strong support for electric mobility. The best part? Many of these manufacturers are no longer satisfied with merely selling on home turf. They have their eyes set on global markets. One of the biggest game changers in China's automotive journey is the electric vehicle, EV. Global companies like Tesla led the EV conversation for a while, but Chinese automakers quickly realized they could dominate this area if they move fast. According to coverage in the Wall Street Journal, even consumer electronics companies like Xiaomi are rolling out electric vehicles, challenging legacy automakers like Ford, General Motors, and Tesla itself. This is a startling development. Imagine if a smartphone maker in another country suddenly started producing cars, and those cars actually sold well. That's what's happening in China. The Chinese government's focus on cutting emissions and reducing dependence on fossil fuels has played a massive role here. The government offered incentives for buying and manufacturing electric cars, built out a vast network of charging stations, and ensured that the industry had the resources it needed to innovate. Today, Chinese brands aren't just making cheap, no-frills electric cars. They're churning out high-quality EVs with advanced features, autonomous driving capabilities, and sleek designs. For consumers in Asia, Europe, and even some parts of North America, this shift has changed the perception of made in China from something basic and inexpensive to something high-tech and forward-thinking. Now that these brands have found massive success in their home market, the logical next step is global expansion. According to the insights from automobility.io, Chinese car makers are pursuing collaborations and acquisitions that help them gain footholds in new regions. One key example is Geely's backing of e-carks, which, as reported by Reuters, is in talks with Volkswagen to co-develop smart cars for Europe and the United States. That's a big sign. Not only are Chinese brands capable on their own, but they're also increasingly seen as partners worth teaming up with. We're witnessing a wave of Chinese automakers looking beyond their domestic market and heading to countries like Russia, where BusinessInsider.com reports that brands like Chery and Geely are making significant sales. There are also moves into Southeast Asia, South America, and even places like the Middle East. In other words, Chinese car makers are no longer content being big players in a single market. They want a slice of the entire global automotive pie. So, why are foreign automakers in China suddenly on the defensive? For one thing, Chinese brands are pricing their cars aggressively, with the cost of EV batteries having dropped and local parts manufacturing readily available. Chinese car makers can often offer competitive pricing. At the same time, many of these vehicles are loaded with modern features, from infotainment systems that rival premium brands to advanced driver assistance technologies. In addition, foreign brands used to rely on brand prestige to justify higher prices in China, but that's changing. Younger Chinese consumers, who make up a significant portion of the market, are just as likely, if not more, to buy a local brand, especially if it's more high-tech. The perception that foreign automatically means better is fading quickly. Meanwhile, some foreign automakers have been slow to adapt to the demand for EVs, or to incorporate the digital ecosystem that Chinese drivers expect. This gives local companies a chance to shine with fully integrated online services, app-based controls, and constant over-the-air updates that keep their cars fresh. It's impossible to ignore the role of the Chinese government in making this transformation happen. As noted by the Council on Foreign Relations blog, China's leadership sees a strong automotive sector, especially in EVs, as a cornerstone of both economic and national security. By controlling more of the supply chain, from raw materials for batteries to vehicle design, China reduces its reliance on foreign technology and fosters its own global champions. Plus, government policies have encouraged automakers to form alliances, invest in R&D, and standardize tech in ways that are beneficial for the domestic industry. Another factor is the relaxation, or strategic adjustment, of the rules around joint ventures. Some global automakers have been allowed to own larger stakes in their Chinese operations, but by now, many local brands have already built up substantial expertise. It's as though the foreign companies taught their local counterparts everything there was to know, and in turn helped them grow into full-fledged competitors. Now, as global car makers try to hold on to their piece of the pie, domestic players are standing tall with their own advanced models that can meet or exceed global standards. Geely has been a headline grabber for years now, especially after it acquired Sweden's Volvo cars. That move gave Geely insights into advanced European engineering and design, which it then fed back into its domestic models. BYD, meanwhile, has soared to global prominence on the back of its EV offerings. Known for its battery technology and a wide range of electric models, BYD is exporting vehicles around the world. Chery has been recognized for its competitive compact cars and SUVs, and it's making inroads in multiple emerging markets. Even traditional luxury brands are adapting. According to Wired, Audi is exploring a rebrand in China, possibly showcasing its four-ring logo differently to appeal more directly to Chinese consumers. This speaks volumes about how important the market is to global companies and how they might need to bend over backward just to keep local buyers interested. But ironically, it also emphasizes that Chinese brands don't necessarily need global automakers in the same way they once did. In fact, it could be the other way around. Foreign car makers need to localize themselves to stay relevant in China. So where do we go from here? According to multiple analysts, including those at automobility.io, the future might see Chinese automakers as major exporters to the global market. We've already seen glimpses of this, with companies shipping affordable EVs to Europe and exploring expansion in North America. As battery prices drop further and Chinese brands continue to refine their global marketing and design, their cars could become attractive options for buyers who want high value at a lower price. Beyond that, the potential for Chinese automakers to push innovation is enormous. By combining their homegrown tech with global partnerships, they could accelerate trends like autonomous driving and next-generation battery technology. The Chinese government's emphasis on going green might also mean that these automakers lead the world in producing cleaner, more efficient cars at scale. In short, the industry is moving in a direction where the big question isn't whether China can compete on the global stage, it's how fast they can dominate it. There's no denying that the automotive industry is undergoing a dramatic shift, and China is right at the center of it. From once being reliant on foreign car makers to becoming an independent force with its own global ambitions, China has flipped the script. The takeaway for all of us, whether we're car enthusiasts or just everyday drivers, is that there's a new set of options emerging on dealership lots, and many of those options might have been unimaginable just a decade ago. Will foreign automakers in China fade away? Probably not entirely. Some will remain key players, especially those that innovate quickly and partner effectively with local companies. But it's clear that the days of foreign automakers simply riding China's massive market to easy profits are over. Domestic players have leveled up, armed with government support, technological advances, and an increasingly loyal customer base. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into the Chinese automotive industry. The sources for everything we've discussed are in the video description, so feel free to check them out if you want to learn more. What do you think? Will Chinese brands become the next big names in your local showroom? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And remember, if you found this video informative or just plain interesting, give it a like and maybe even share it with a friend who's curious about the future of cars. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.